Welcome to the first ever podcast at Concussion Inc. I'm Irv Muchnick in California, along with my partner Tim Joyce in New York, and we're talking about breaking news, which is the release by Congressman George Miller, ranking Democrat on the House Committee on Education and the Workforce, of correspondence with the FBI, which constitutes the first documents that have been published related to federal investigations of USA Swimming sexual abuse and cover-up. Now, Tim and I are recording on Tuesday. Congressman Miller's office released a package of materials to a select group of media outlets, including Concussion Inc., but it's embargoed from being broadcast or published until Thursday. We're doing a little bit of instant analysis of an 11-page letter that Congressman Miller sent over the summer to the director of the FBI and a response that the FBI sent back to Miller. Now, Tim, let's start out by sharing with our listeners how the USA Swimming scandals began unfolding in earnest following media reports of coach sex abuse and cover-up in 2010, and then leading to the high-profile case of Maryland swim coach Rick Curl, who's now in state prison in Maryland. Explain that a little bit.
Well, in 2010, there was a highly publicized TV news account about several victims of abuse by USA swim coaches. And in further investigations in the media, it was uncovered that these kind of abuses have been going on for decades, upwards of 30 years. And this led to eventually Kelly Curran, who was abused by Rick Curl in the mid-1980s. The case resurfaced in 2012 and 2013 when Kelly Curran went public with her information. This resulted in an indictment of Rick Curl, who was one of the most celebrated swim coaches and who owned a very high-profile swim club in the Washington, D.C. area. This led to his being indicted and then actually charged and imprisoned on charges of sexual abuse against Ms. Curran. After the sentencing, or I guess it was just beforehand, Kelly Curran made a plea that Congress should get involved and finally investigate USA Swimming and the USOC. In turn, George Miller, the ranking minority member on the House Committee on Education and the Workforce, initiated a GAO report looking into swim abuse cases. Furthermore, this led to George Miller doing his own investigation with his office, which resulted in the recent letter that we have obtained asking the FBI to look into coach abuse at USA Swimming.
Okay, so the GAO, of course, is the Government Accountability Office. Congressman Miller, who represents the 12th District in California, asked the GAO to do a report on federal statutes as they relate to reporting of sex abuse in amateur sports programs. And we're still awaiting that GAO report, which will probably come through in 2015. Now, to turn to the letters, the 11-page Miller to FBI letter and the 1-page FBI to Miller letter that we received today. The FBI's letter, which is all these primary source documents are published at links at concussioninc.net. The FBI's letter is open to the interpretation that they have worked with USA Swimming on pointing out problems in their enforcement of federal law or their adherence to federal law in the area of sexual abuse. Congressman Miller's letter, I think it's fair to say, pushes the stronger interpretation that the FBI is investigating USA Swimming and should pursue that investigation. And despite a $200,000 public relations and lobbying campaign that Swimming initiated in the summer of 2013 after Miller began his investigation. And Tim, I think Congressman Miller's letter has the strongest words yet by a government official about these sexual abuse scandals. Why don't you share some of the more dramatic passages?
Yes, clearly, and I must say that Congressman Miller does have a history of pursuing with vigilance issues related to child safety, be it sexual abuse or school issues. In the letter, Congressman Miller said the following: He requested the FBI to, quote, fully investigate USA Swimming's handling of both past and present cases of child sexual abuse, with the implication being that the congressman believes that the Safe Sport program initiated by USA Swimming in 2002 has really not done anything to end the generation-long pattern of cover-ups by executives at USA Swimming. Congressman Miller also said the alarming allegations and high-profile reports of sexual abuse in the ranks of USA Swimming necessitate closer scrutiny by the FBI. Further, Congressman Miller said, together, USA Swimming's historical failures to address child abuse, the existence of non-compliant victim files that leave children exposed to future harm, and the fact that the Safe Sport program appears not to work for all victims raises significant concerns around USA Swimming's ability to police its ranks sufficiently. Now, this goes right to the point about how there's a self-policing aspect to USA Swimming's quote-unquote solutions that has to be looked at. Goes on to say that USA Swimming is regularly failing to address abuse allegations in a complex and timely manner, even though, according to USA Swimming, no statute of limitations exists for abuse cases within its ranks. Leadership and other staff within USA Swimming possess information about previous and presumably present cases of abuse that, if ignored or improperly investigated, leave children at risk of abuse. Now, this cuts to recent cases that we've discussed, be it Alex Puccielli or others. And finally, the last significant point that I think Miller made, quote, because basic information about predatory coaches may be kept secret and not shared, predatory coaches banned by USA Swimming may pursue and abuse additional victims. Obviously, this is a warning sign that Miller is trying to alert the FBI to, that's stating this must be taken care of before more children are abused and harmed.
Okay, I think that's a good overview of the key bullets in the Miller letter, which again can be read in its entirety at concussioninc.net. Just one quick correction. I think you said the Safe Sport program initiated in 2002. It was in 2010. So it's very important that Miller's letter includes cases subsequent to the start of the Safe Sport program in 2010, which means that they are looking not just at old legacy coaches who are no longer active, about whom unresolved allegations continue to linger, but also about cases that were brought to the attention of USA Swimming and its staff in 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013, and up to the present.
Correct, and we've, as you said, we've articulated this on Concussion Inc. in detail, and some of these cases are mentioned within the letter of cases within the last 12, 14, 15 months that have not been handled correctly by USA Swimming.
Okay, so the last thing we need to talk about is where things go from here. The letter's been published. Congressman Miller, who's been a rock on Capitol Hill for decades, is retiring after the current term. So there's some concern among activists in that regard. And why don't you take some of the political side of this from the point forward?
It is interesting because, as we've noted, Congressman Miller is the minority ranking member on the committee as the Republicans are in control, and they have shown not much of an inclination to pursue this. So Miller's having a progressive, energetic leader leaving leaves some concern. However, we have heard, and I have heard, numerous reports that Miller will be passing the baton off, so to speak, to other congresswomen and congressmen, most notably in California, where so many abuse issues have taken place. And from what I've heard, Congressman Miller is emphatic and committed to making sure that this issue is not dropped once the new year begins and a new Congress commences.
Right. To, again, repeat a thesis that we've made time and again on the site, probably driving this issue in 2015 and beyond will be the engagement of not just a congressman and congresswomen in the now Republican-controlled House of Representatives, but also the 20 women senators of both parties in the United States Senate, which is Democratic-controlled. But more important, it's bipartisan and it's a female issue. And as with the issue of sexual assault in the newly integrated military services, it's my view at least that women senators are going to be key to taking this fight where it needs to go in 2015 and beyond. I think that about covers it. Thank you for your time, Tim, and thank you everyone for listening. I direct you all to concussioninc.net for further info, and who knows, maybe we'll see you again soon on the podcast. Thank you.